Hello everybody, Moss here. Let's talk about Siege. So, if you watch the basics of Cyrodiil, you'll notice that I pointed out all different places where you can find siege merchants. So if you don't know where to find siege merchants, please watch that basics tutorial, as there's going to be lots of other stuff that you're unaware of. I did mention also that there is an add-on called Zero Siege in the previous video on basics. So make sure that you fill out all of Zero Siege. Make sure you go through it. You take your time. You have a look. If you're looking for a bare minimum of Siege to keep, there is a document that goes with this video that has a full list that shows all the different kinds of Siege that you should carry with you at all times. So to actually use your Siege, once you have your Siege in your inventory, if you press I and go to your inventory, at the top right hand corner you have your quick slot bar, so that we just put it on our quick slot bar. So I'm going to drag and drop a Covenant Ballista and a Covenant Fire Ballista onto my bar. This is, I would say, a bare minimum of what you should have on your quick slot bar at all times. This is what I would recommend. At least one potion, Covenant Ballista and Covenant Fire Ballista, always, always, always. Meat Bag Catapults, Covenant Forward Camp, always, always, always. One of the 3 repair kits, right? Because we have the wood, we have the stone, and we have the siege. And then the last 2 slots are kind of up to you. Some people like to put a battering ram, but we don't need everybody on the team with a battering ram. Just 2 or 3 battering rams is fine. Some people like to put some of their cold fire stuff there. You could put fire pot trebuchets. You could put a second set of repair kits. You could put recall stones. I personally like oils because I use them all the time. But at least these other pieces should be on your bar at almost all times. So once it's actually on your quick slot bar, then you hold Q and you select what piece of siege you want to place. You find some flat ground. Each piece of siege is going to have a footprint and a minimum distance. It's going to have to be from other pieces of siege. Once it's down, you can fire it. To put it away, you have to wait until it's reloaded. And then once it's reloaded, then you can just press X to put it away. Like I said before, each piece of siege is going to have like a unique footprint. So for example, the smaller the piece of siege, the closer you can put other things next to it. So the ballistas have the smallest footprint, right? The smallest minimum space that they need. But trebuchets are going to need a lot more space. I don't have one on my bar right now, but like if I was to place a trebuchet, I would probably have to place it as far away as this. So you can see the space economy of placing siege. That's why we use the ballistas more than we use everything else. So that's how to place siege. So when we look at types of siege, we can sort of look at types of siege in a few different ways. We have siege that shoots projectiles. So this includes our ballistas, our catapults, and our trebuchets. The ballistas have the fastest rate of fire, and they shoot in a relatively straight line, and they reload really quickly. Ooh, this one's about to die at 2%. I'm going to repair it up. And then we have the catapults, which have a slower rate of fire, but still, like a relatively quick rate of fire. But they shoot at an arc. You can see that this arc right here. And then the last is our trebuchets. Trebuchets have an incredibly slow rate of fire. They also have the largest footprint of any other piece of siege. It's quite large. And they deal the most damage. The damage over time of all the siege is about the same. So you can see how long this trebuchet takes to reload. But its hit deals a lot more damage. But again, we only use these in particular situations where we want to shoot over a structure, like over a wall, because they just take up way too much space. When you're placing siege, so most of the time you're going to be running ballistas, especially if we're trying to break down structures. And this is a very effective way of placing them. You can place them in these little tripod formations. Oops, come on, third one. So instinctively, players will want to come right to here, behind a piece of siege to operate it. But that's not true at all. You can actually operate a piece of siege from quite a reasonable distance away. In fact, there's lots of situations where you might be attacking something and you can place a piece of siege in a spot like this, and you can actually get behind cover to operate the siege. So you're kind of protected from, enemy fire, from enemy siege as you're actually shooting it. So, you don't have to come right behind it. Oh, see, my siege is degrading. Oops. So that's another good point. So siege, if you leave it alone, will slowly degrade. See, it's at 97%, 96%. If I just sit here and do nothing, that rate of degradation will go from about whatever it is, 500 a second, it's about 1% a second. It'll start to rapidly increase to about 10% a second, as long as I stay off of it and don't touch it. So we'll have a look at that in a sec. So if you leave a piece of siege alone on the battlefield, it will just sort of degrade to nothingness and die. But we can use our repair kits, right? Our repair kits work just like everything else. See, now it's degrading at 10, right? But if I click on it and then click off of it, it stops that really fast degradation. See, this one's going to be degrading really quickly too. So this tripod formation is good because you can actually operate all your pieces of siege in a circle without having to move. So this is the fastest. You can see that I can actually get back to my first piece of siege and shoot it before it's even finished reloading. So one person can operate 3 pieces of siege really easily. If you get really fast, you can do 4. But it's important to remember that as you're operating siege, that you don't want to let your buffs fall down. So I call it shoot, shoot, buff, right? You have to sort of keep your buffs up, especially your defensive buffs, because if somebody jumps on you, you're not, your field of view, you're not really paying a lot of attention to what's going on around you. So you have to make sure that you keep your skills going so that you don't, get jumped and easily picked off as you're sieging. So you go through your rotation, you do all 3 pieces of siege, recast your buffs, and then keep shooting. This is how we operate siege. If you're running siege during an attack, it's very important that you keep shooting, right? That you don't just let your siege fall. Sometimes I see groups of people and somebody will call out, oh, I see like 1 yellow coming in from the left, and then 6 or 7 people will get off of their siege and go try to fight. But that's stupid, because even if we kill that player, the wall is still there, right? So it's very important that we, if you're on siege, that you stay on siege unless explicitly told to get off. That's how we win fights. We win fights because we were all staying on siege and we broke down the barriers really quickly before enemies got a chance to organize and mobilize. Very important. Yeah. The other kind of siege that I'll talk about briefly is cold fire. So cold fire there's 3 kinds. There's cold fire ballistas, there's cold fire trebuchets, and then there's cold stone trebuchets. So the cold fire ballistas are just like fire ballistas, but they're way more powerful. And same with cold stone is like stone, and cold fire trebuchets are like fire trebuchets. The cold fire ballistas were selling for about 10k gold in the overland. You could buy them from merchants, or you can pick them up at Dolmen's in Cyrodiil. So they're kind of expensive. So if you're going to use them, make sure you use them in positions where you know that you're going to be safe, or you can pick them up if things start going south. But the cold stone and cold fire trebuchets are pretty cheap. They only cost a couple thousand each. So, I mean, you can use them. Cold stone trebuchets are just worth having instead of stone trebuchets if you can afford a few thousand gold. Okay, so let's talk about attacking. So as we're talking about attacking, we're going to keep in mind all the strategies that we're using, because when we talk about defending, we're going to do the opposite, right? We're going to defend against good attacking. So, actually, you know what? We didn't talk about a couple other pieces of siege. So there's the Covenant battering rams, right, which are used to knock down front doors. There's also the repair kits, which, I mean, they're obvious what they do, and oils. And I'll show you what oils do in the future. But with battering rams, so battering rams can only be placed at front doors. You need 2 to 6 people to stand within a pretty small radius around them. You'll get a little notification at the bottom of your screen. It'll appear about here, and it'll show you if you're part of the 6 people on the battering ram or not. But the important thing when we're attacking, the first 6 people that approach the keep, we don't really care about all these ads. Remember that if this was an enemy keep, that these ads would all be hostile towards us. So the first person that approaches the keep, usually me, is going to come and place a battering ram right at the front, right? Can't place it because it's a friendly keep. But the first 6 people are going to come stand on this ram, and they're going to fight these ads. The reason that we want to stack first is so the battering ram starts hitting. We want it to start hitting as fast as possible. If you're not one of the first 6, if you're coming in from the back, you might get some aggro from these ads as well. But it's important that you put down a piece of siege, that you shoot it, and that maybe now you start fighting the ads, right? You put down maybe a damage over time, right? You cast a buff, but you have to start shooting siege as fast as possible. We want to get all of our siege set up. You want to get your little tripod set up as fast as possible and start breaking down that door as fast as possible. If you don't, until a keep is flagged, enemies have infinite respawns here and they can teleport here. So if we're slow in getting it to 50%, then we're in real trouble. If we're slow in general, we're in real trouble. When you're on the front door, people are going to try to counter siege us, so you can hide in these corners. These are really effective corners to hide in. They're pretty safe. Okay, so the first 6 people are on the ram. Everyone else is setting up in the back. We might also run into a situation where enemies are going to come up on these walls, and they're going to start to shoot oil at us, or they're going to try to counter siege us and prevent us from attacking. So as soon as the people show up, we want some people to grab some meatbag catapults or some firepot trebuchets and start shooting up at them. If we can counter their counter siege, right, we want to make sure that our players that are breaking the door down get to do so without being harassed. So perhaps if you're one of the last people, you might want to set up maybe 1 or 2 ballistas and start hitting the door, but you also might want to, put up 1 meatbag catapult just to be ready. Just to be ready. If we're breaking down one of these walls, instead of a battering ram, everyone's on siege. There just is no battering ram for walls. There's another strategy which we use. It's called 50-50. This is a more advanced technique, but if we're breaking down a postern, like say we're going to break down this wall right here, and we want to go inside, what we'll do is we'll set up a siege line, back here, and we'll start shooting at this wall. But a handful of people, 3, 4, 5 people, will set up 1 or 2 stone trebuchets each. So we'll have like 6 to 8 right close to the wall, and they'll actually start shooting and hitting this inner postern wall. Now, the reason that we do this is because, like I said, as soon as a keep gets to 50%, it becomes flagged, and then it becomes apparent to everybody else in Cyrodiil. They can look at their map and they can see, oh shit, Fort Dragonclaw is under attack. It's being sieged. So people can react. So if we break the inner wall down to about 50% at the same time as we break the outer wall to 50%, well, we've just increased the amount of time that we have to break that inner wall down, right? Like it's surprise. By the time it's flagged, not only is outer at 50%, but inner is also at 50%. But again, that's more of an advanced tactic. Okay, so what to do after a breach goes down? I see new players do this all the time. This front door will break wide open, and then they rush in, and then, oh shit, they get to about here, and they realize that the enemy team is spread out all throughout this area here. They're all shooting siege at the door, and you're dead. And not only are you dead, but you're also dead and separated from your team, so there's not really a good chance of respawning, of being revived. So, when a breach falls, we don't just run in. We wait. Sometimes we'll even pick up our regular ballistas and we will replace them with fire ballistas, and we'll start using fire ballistas to shoot enemies. I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, but Covenant ballistas and stone ballistas, these are the best against structures. And then anything that has fire, so like cold fire and Covenant fire ballistas and trebuchets, these are great against players, and same with meatbag catapults. That's what we use for our anti-player. Fire and meat. Kill the people. So when a door goes down, we might actually swap out some siege and start shooting them with fire siege. Or Crown will ask everybody to stack up on one side, and then we'll go in all together, right? Our healers will cast a bunch of alts, we'll all buff up, we'll cast the negate on the door, right? And then as we break in, if it's really hot, we'll break in and we'll go left or right. And you'll hear Crown call it out. So let's say the Crown called in and right. So we're going to go in to the right. We want to stay as tight to these walls as we possibly can. We want to go all the way into one of these little corners, into these little into these 2-story areas. We go up these stairs. And once we get up the stairs, we can either spread out along the wall this way, spread out along the wall this way, or we can go up to the top And the most important thing that we have to do immediately is set up counter siege. So this is meatbag catapults, fire pot trebuchets, and we want to start zoning out anybody up on this donut. This round circular area, we call it the donut. So you can set up like a meatbag catapult. You can set up a second meatbag catapult behind you here as well. And we want to just start zoning out the donut. If they can't shoot us with siege, then we get a chance to set ourselves up. We get a chance to break down the door. But if they're up there just killing us, then what are we going to do, right? Then siege is incredibly powerful. If they're hitting us and we're not hitting them, we lose. If we're hitting them and they're not hitting us, we win. It's really that simple. There's a siege limit. There's a maximum of 20 pieces of siege that you can have at keeps for each team. So if we're using 20 of ours effectively and they're not, we're going to win. You can also set up siege along the outer wall, like around here. And you can actually, so again, you can zone out the donut, but from these positions, you can actually shoot into the keep. So even when the front door breaks down, if there's like a lot of players, if it's like a 50 versus 50 kind of battle, like a big scale, staying up here and shooting meatbags is great. It's great. You don't have to go inside and capture the flags. Staying up here is also great because sometimes we'll have enemy teams come in and try to kill us from the back. So if you're up on the wall, right, you can start to zone out that door. This one is not as good, but being up on this tower and up on the tower over there, if you're up there, right, like you can really turn your siege around and start hitting enemy teams that are going to try to come in from the back and try to, we call it back wiping, where they come in and they try to kill us. So once we've secured the wall and once we've taken the courtyard and the courtyard is ours, then we'll start to move up and take the porch. Same rules as the outside. Killing the adds is less important as setting up siege. We have the first 6 on the battering ram. You can hide in these corners. You can also hide right here. These are also, oops, that's the keep door. Hiding right up on this ledge here. You'll count as being on the ram if you're up right on this little piece right here. So you can actually hide and stay pretty safe from oils as you're working the ram. And then the same rule applies, right? When this door falls, we don't just rush in. We wait for the call. We'll stack up. We'll buff up. We'll cast some ults. We'll go in, and then we can go left and right. So on a left and right call, you can see here you can hide in these little alcoves, and keeping in mind that all of these adds will be hostile towards us. So you can start to kill these adds. You can stay safe. We can clear up all this stuff. Maybe we have some friendlies shooting fire siege in, and they're hitting people on the back flag. We can also move up to here, and we can sit here. Same deal. And then ultimately we want to come up these stairs and clear the top. The top is where lots of players will have their final stand. So again, remembering that if we have some friendlies on the outside up on these towers and on the wall that are shooting siege, we saw where the siege can land. So if we come here and there's 10 players standing on this box and they're trying to, group up and defend for one last stand, well, if we're hitting them with meatbags at the same time, this is going to be a really easy fight for us. We're going to be able to kill these guys. No problem. No problem. So after we've taken a keep, like after we've cleared the inside of all players, the next most important thing is that we stack on the flags and we flip the flags so that the keep turns from the enemy color to our color. And then after that, we have to defend, or we have to repair. So you might hear the crown call, like make sure you got your wood repair kit slotted. And then we always repair the outside first to make sure that nobody can come in from behind us and kill us. So we'll run out to whatever hole we made in the outside. Wood repair kits for the doors, right? Put them on our quick slot bar and use them with our Q. And then repair the inner and repair anything else that's damaged. We would like it to be 100%. After we've repaired everything, you want to make sure you come back and talk to the siege merchant to re-up on all your siege. Make sure you're full up on siege. And then we might ride out and take any resources that aren't ours. And then from this point, you'll listen to Crown for where to rally. If there's no other rally point set, then we usually meet just outside the front of the keep at the gatehouse. So that's attacking. So for defending, we do the same thing in reverse. So we just talked about all the great ways to attack. So for defending, we'll do it backwards. Oil is your best friend for defending. It's so important to set up oil on the inside. When that door is reaching like 50, 60%, and Crown makes a call that we're not going to be able to hold the courthouse, they're going to break in, it's very important that we set up oil. We can set up oils like here and here to make sure that anyone that's coming in the door is going to get hit with oil. More importantly, we can set up oils here and here and here. And on the stairs here, you can put up oil here. That'll dump down. And you can also set up oil on the second platform. These oils are so goddamn important. I can't stress enough how important it is. If someone is breaking into the inner keep, it means that we've lost every fight to this point. They've pushed us back and back and back. And this is the last choke point that we're going to be able to hold to kill enemies as they come through. So if these oils aren't up, we've lost. It's over. Everyone has this thing in their head when they're in this group mentality where they think like, well, someone else is going to do that. Someone else is going to set up siege there, but then nobody does. I'll have a group of 20 people and they're coming in the front door and I look up and there's no oil. If I look up and that door is at 2% and there's no oil, it's lost. It's done. Like I'll fight and do my best, but it's over. However, if there's 6 oils, 8 oils that are being dumped from above that are landing right here, man, when they come rushing in and they get hit with all those oils, whole groups are going to die. You'll see 30, 40 people dead on the ground. That's how you defend. That's how you hold a keep. Just because the door goes down doesn't mean it's over. But if we have no defense, it certainly is over. So most people should be on siege. The only people that should be down here at the front is myself and any healers. That's it. Everybody else should be on siege. Most people, what they want to do when the door goes down is they want to fight hand to hand. So what they end up doing is they end up running around like this, casting buffs on themselves. This is the worst possible thing to do. Pardon me. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. You want to be working siege. So on the bottom, we can put a couple meatbag catapults that are going to hit the breach, right? We can put one right here on this carpet. We can also put one here on the back flag. And then we want to put as many fire ballistas as we can possibly fit on the ground floor. If they're coming in one of the posterns on the ground floor, the idea is the same. We'll set up ballistas and meatbag catapults, and we'll try to shoot the breaches. Here's a cute little spot. If somebody's coming in the postern, you can actually set up a fire catapult right here, and you can shoot over this little lip, and that'll hit right at the door. So this is a cute little spot for defending that little corner. That's great. But again, to defend inner, those oils are so important. And the second most important spot is up here. These are called the pocket. This is called the pocket. We call the pockets by cardinal directions. So this is the western pocket, and then the other side is the eastern pocket. We set up a fire ballista. This is also an excellent point to have a cold fire ballista, right, for a last stand. But this fire ballista can hit the front door. So right now we have 10 oils and a fire ballista. You can put another fire ballista right here, and you can see you can hit sort of down at the front door, kind of in this flag area, and you can put another fire ballista right here, and you can hit that pocket. Remember when I said that when we come in, we go left and right because it's safe? Well, shit, not if there's a fire ballista here, right? You can maybe even squeeze in one right here and try to hit this little corner here, right? It's a little bit tough of a shot, but you can make it. So putting fire ballistas up here, crazy important. You can also trade out a fire ballista for like an oil. If they're breaking in one of the posterns, like if they're coming in here, you can put oils here to dump down on them when they come here. If they push in and get to the back flag, you can put an oil. You can also use these fire trebuchets. You can hit these areas up here, right? So if they do manage to get up the stairs, you're still not dead. You can still keep firing. You can still hit them here. One person can run a pocket, or 2 people. You can have enough siege up on this ledge for 2 people. And you can also see there's a tiny little choke point here, right? They have to come here. And you have 4 pieces of siege set up there. So it's very, very strong. So again, if you have all these oils set up here, if you have the 2 pockets full of siege, and if you have a bunch of people on the bottom with meat bags and other pieces of siege on the bottom, you can hold the door. You can hold the door. If they don't attack the door for a period of time, the door becomes repairable, and people can sneak out and start repairing the doors, and we can start pushing them back out of the keep. We can. I've seen it done. It's incredible. Defending is incredibly satisfying when you do it correctly. When we're defending the courtyard, remember how I said that when we attack from these top positions? Well, guess what? Guess what our job is when defending the courtyard? Most important thing is zoning out those siege positions. We want to get our siege set up so that we can shoot and hit the tops of these structures. As soon as we see anybody setting up any kind of siege on the outer wall up on that second story, we need to set up meat bags and fire so that we can zone them out. That's the most important thing. Because the next most important thing is that we have oil set up. Anywhere where people are setting up siege, we got to put down oils, we got to dump oil on them. If we're being hit by meat bags from over there and we're trying to dump oil right here, we're not going to be able to do it. If we can't dump oil, they get free run of the bottom. Our door comes down really fast, right? It's pretty straightforward. You have to hold, have to hold, have to hold. Over here, you can put fire trebs or fire ballistas, right, to hit the tops of those structures over there as well. Super crazy important. Defending the outer wall, so that's defending the courtyard. Defending the outside is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. You just have to get up on the outer wall and start shooting down at them anywhere where you see enemies, right? Same thing. The only exception, the only different spot is there are some really good places that you can put some oil for people that are on the battering ram. I swear to God, if you put down 4 oils and dump 4 oils consistently on the battering ram, they won't be able to do it. So one person comes right here, and that's the outside of the front door right there. And you can put 2 oils down here, 1 and 2, and dump them down. And then up top, it's the same thing. You can put down an oil right here and an oil right here. And then you dump it down on the front door. And it's impossible for them to do anything about it. They just have oil dumped on them, and it makes their life hard. It pushes them away. And that's how you win. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. Again, like sieging is absolutely how you win in PvP. So thanks for checking out this video. There's 2 other tutorial videos that I got posted, so be sure to check those out as well. One is basics of PvP, so if some of this was confusing, you might want to check that out if you're pretty new. Lots of good tips and tricks, and even for people that have been playing PvP for a while, there might be things in there that you didn't know. And a more advanced video covering, like, more advanced combat topics as well. So yeah, thanks for being part of our team. I hope to see you out in Cyrodiil.